Good morning. It is Monday morning, and we're here to give you your Monday morning Monday morning motivation. Anyway, it's been a long week, long week. We've been snowed in all last weekend. It was a blessing that we didn't lose any power, or we did have a busted water pipe, but my handyman over here fixed that real quick. But we're grateful to see you guys coming on. Hey, Tasha, Alexander. Hey. I don't know if I seen Donald's name first or not, but I did see yours. And hi, Brenda. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. And
good morning.
I am so grateful to be here. It's been a struggle. But we're grateful to be here, and we're glad to see you guys popping on. Sister Rhonda, good morning. Yes. And glad that we're here to deliver whatever it is that God has to give to you all. And I'm going to let James say good morning. Go, James.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning as y'all coming in. Just trying to get moving this morning. Glad to see everybody. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. Mm-hmm. He's our way maker. He's a heavy load bearer. He's everything we need and more. And we're just thankful that he has called us to see one more day of his grace and of his mercy. So we don't take it for granted. Once again, glad to be here. Just saying good morning to everybody. Sister who is at Noble. Everybody coming in. Sister Rose, Sister Belle, Sister Tasha, Brother Donald. I see you coming in. Sister Brenda, Sister Rhonda. As y'all come on in.
I see Sister Val. I can see a little bit. I can't see it as big as James can see it, but I can see it a little bit. Mama Parker, I see you. Good morning. I mean, we're glad to be here. I'm grateful. And every Monday morning when we come on, I'm probably as nervous. I'm sweating bullets. And if you know me, I don't do too much sweating because I'm always cold. I'm freezing. But this is probably the one time where I'm hot and like, God, you got to help me on here. Yes. I get nervous because I'm not used to being seen. I love to work behind the scenes. Give me a camera or something and I can work behind the scenes. But I think Sister Julia said it best. She said it took a whole pandemic to get you out front. And you know what? And that's what God would do for you when he have plans for you. He'll change the whole world for you. And I think that goes in good with what we are talking about on today. Yeah. God will flip the whole world for you because he loves you that much to stop everything for you to develop, to come out and do whatever it is that he has planned for you. He's God. He can do whatever it is that he want to do.
That's it. And I see everybody coming in. Sister Miranda, Sister Riddle, Eloise. There go your friend Camille.
Hey, Camille.
Sister Oradrone, Sister Lois Watkins, Hattie Love. Y'all come on in here. Sister Janice Tony, Dolores Sturgis. Just glad to see everybody. Had Sister Loretta. Everybody coming in this morning. Just glad to be here. Sister Johnny, Sister
Joyce Franklin.
I miss Joyce. That's my joking buddy. Sister Gwen did an excellent job on last night teaching Sunday school.
And love your hair, Sister Gwen. Yes, ma'am. You were gorgeous.
There go Valerie out. She been clowning, so she been out of school. It's time for her to get back to work. Y'all teachers that been out of school for a while, sitting at home and hadn't even had to do your Zoom or whatever y'all been doing. It's time to get back into
I told you yesterday, don't let him hate on you, Val. Enjoy yourself.
Yes.
Seriously.
God is good and he's worthy to be praised. We had some awesome word on last week dealing with transitioning. Mm-hmm. The Thompsons came back dealing with undercover issues. And we jumped back in on being repositioned. Mm-hmm. Then Pastor and First Lady came in and dealt with the distractions of Samson. They dealt with some stuff real deep. And then on yesterday, Pastor preached another powerful message on yesterday. And it's just, let me tell you something, we ought to be fat. Because we're getting fed all over the place.
I'm telling you.
And I'm just thankful that God has placed us in a position in ministry where we can be fed. And we're going to get into this today. We're going to take our time, walk into it. We're still dealing with the transitioning or the repositioning, because the whole world is going through a transition.
Mm-hmm.
We're going through a transition of power with new president, new administration. We're going through a transition with this pandemic. We're going through a transition in our lives. And I think sometimes God lets us see everything going on around us to paint a picture in our lives to let us know that we are going through. And if you don't know it, then you'll find yourself getting frustrated. You'll find yourself getting to a place where you start feeling angry, agitated, depressed, because you don't realize what's really happening. But the whole matter is God is moving you strategically into what he called you to do in the first place, what you were born to do. And I think sometimes we get that mixed up with what we are doing. And sometimes the church even gets that mixed up, because let me tell you something. I was in a Zoom call and we were dealing with legacy. And some of the greatest impacts on my life was done through educators. I had 2 teachers in my life. I know they were born to be teachers. They were born not just to be teachers in the school, but teachers of life. And you got to realize whatever God has, when you look at it, he took the disciples, they were fishers. He made them fishers of what?
Men.
Fishers of men. He took what they were doing and elevated it to the next level. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the struggle comes in sometimes, is what you've been born to do.
Right.
Sometimes we get stuck in that, in a, what I want to say, in a physical realm. But when God calls us to do that in a spiritual realm, sometimes we don't want to move to that next level, but that's what you've been born to do. And sometimes we lock that into just the 4 walls of the church, you know, and we got to break it outside of the 4 walls of the church. See, if I can pour into somebody in the streets,
right?
If I can pour into somebody at the job, if I can pour into somebody that's outside of, I'm supposed to come to church to learn more about God so I can be more equipped about what I have, so I can take it out to the highways and the byways and use it. And a lot of times only time we want to be used is within those 4 walls of the church, because that's the only time we feel empowered. Oh God, I hear you now. He working. You only feel empowered in that atmosphere of the church. But God said, I'm giving you the necessary material you need to sharpen the skills that I've already placed in you to use outside of the walls. See, we don't go to 4 years and 5 years and 8 years and 12 years of college to become whatever that is to stay in college.
Right.
You take it and you take it out and you use it outside of the walls of the college so you can operate in what God has called you to do. Come on, sister.
That's good. No, I'm thinking, I mean, that's awesome, because when what you're learning and going through while you at church, since that's, what you use, use that as your instruction time, the time that you're learning, your schooling.
Right.
And when you learning those things, I'm saying things that it's another word that I'm trying to find, but when you in that time of learning and instruction, you take it out together and bring in more people. Right. And so, I mean, that's real good. I enjoyed that.
And then sometimes, let me say something, they might not even come to your physical
They might not come. But they'll take the word and spread it.
They are in the kingdom. We're trying to empower. The kingdom of heaven suffered violence, but the violent take it by force. When you realize the oppression, and see, sometimes God let us see the oppression when, oh my goodness, this Black History Month, and I know we're not called just to reach our people, but sometimes we have to focus in on some stuff. And on yesterday, we were looking at the story of Rodney King. We made our 11-year-old son sit down and see certain things. We're looking at certain things, trying to get a greater understanding of the oppression. And if you don't realize you're running from a place of negativity, if you're coming from a place from where you're behind, you'll never run fast enough or hard enough or persevere through the obstacles to get to what God has already placed in front of you to have.
And if anybody who have had opposition, it's the Black race, the African American race. We have had some oppositions, and I'm just watching. While we were watching, Connor looks over and he said, "Mama, why is it February is the only month that we teach Black history?" And I said, that's the month that they allocated to us. He said, "But we're Black all the time." And that's so true. We're Black We were black yesterday. We were black in January. We were black in February, December, March, whatever month it is. We're black.
We were black before he put us on this earth.
Right.
He said, before I formed thee, I knew thee. So he already knew. So we're going to get into this.
And if Rouse, if you're watching, I am.
So we got.
I am black.
That's an inside joke between Rouse and Minister Fields and Tamicka. They always call each other. But when you look at this whole story, we're gonna get into some stuff today, and it's gonna take our time. It's gonna be might be a little different, but we're gonna flow with it because I want us to understand.
Right.
I want us to understand one thing that we must understand. God has prepared you
right
for what He's already called you to do.
Y'all bear with me.
God has prepared you for what He's already called you to do. It's already in you.
Right.
But it's left up to you to discover it, to explore it, to understand it, and to use it. And it's going to come with some opposition.
Right. It's
going to come with some opposition. And we talk a lot of times about the struggles and the trials that we go through.
Right.
But all this stuff is to prepare you to be able to handle the pressure and the weight of what God has already prepared for you to do. Come on, Tamicka. Let's get into this.
So our lesson today, the title is The Process of Repositioning and Transitioning. You don't know my story. You don't know my story. So the process that I have to go through to be repositioned and to transition might not be the process that you have to go through. So I got to use my story to get to where I need to be. You got to use your story to get to where you need to be. And we all, it's by design that we can walk, that we're all going through different trials and tribulations because our stories aren't the same. You know, my story is not the exact same for James. There are some things that he endured. He testified about how he was looking at 10 to 40. And that's not my story.
I don't want to be nobody's story.
You know, that's not my story. But it was a reason. And it'll be displayed, you know, he's probably helping somebody by even testifying about it. You know, I was looking at this. Somebody might be looking at the same time right now and may have faced the same or something similar that he has gone through. And God might be saying the same things. And, hey, don't take the deal. You know, look, I put somebody before you as an example. You know, your story is an example. Your story, tell your story so that it can help somebody else. You know, I know I cut that off.
No,
but
yeah, that's good because see that right there, really, that we can stop and just deal with that. I want to hit somebody with this. You need to let folk know you don't know my story. So if they don't know your story, then it's left up to you to tell them that story. Now, you got to be careful who you tell your story to because everybody can't receive it. But everything that you have been through in your life, everything that you thought was going to kill you, everything that you thought that was insignificant, God says I can use all of that. And when folks start to discredit you, folks start to hate on you, folks start to talk about you, you need to let them know you don't know my story. You don't know the shoes I walked in. You don't know what I had to go through to get to this place. We need more of our senior people to let some of our younger people know, baby, you got it easy. See, I had to wash clothes outside. I had to, go pick cotton out the fields. I had to grow my own vegetables. You don't know my story. Just because you see me today and I might have a new car, I might have a decent house. You don't know the hell I went through in order to get here. So don't negate my story by what I look like. Hey, and that's the thing I want you to get this morning. You need to be willing to go through. I'm trying to start right now. You don't know my story.
Right.
And that's what we're going to talk about. You don't know my story. And that's I'm trying not to get ahead of ourselves. But when you start looking at some stuff, I was a teenage parent. You know what I'm saying? I was hooked on drugs. You know, you got to be, and then you might say, look, I was not a teenage parent. I got married at a good, that's still a story with triumph victory at the end. I don't care where you start from. I don't care how low it was. I don't care how many mistakes you made. Your mistakes are not the ending. They're just the beginning of a setup and a comeback. So you don't know my story. Own your story. Walk in your story. Because the steps of a good man are what? Ordered by the Lord. I'm
That's
already
good. I was just thinking about when you were saying that, when you were talking about the story. I'm thinking, you know, sometimes there's an embarrassment that comes with the story.
That's good to me.
You know, you want to be, the trials and the tribulations that we face and that we go through, a lot of times we're embarrassed by those things, you know, especially if there was hard things that you have gone through, you know, if it was rape, if it was molestation by a family member, by a close friend or anybody that, you know, that's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
It's heartbreaking and it's embarrassing. But if you went through it and you endured it and you lived to tell the story, to tell your story, guess what?
Yes.
You might can help somebody else from a pit that they are in.
Ooh, that's good to me.
You can pull them out. You're able to pull them out before destruction happens, before they destroy themselves, before they give up, before, you know, anything else happens.
Yes.
You know, you can tell your story. You know, it's some things that's very difficult for me to tell. And it was so difficult to the point where I forgot about them. It's called defensive mechanisms. You know, in order for me to survive, I forgot about it. So later on in life, as I got older, it started coming back up and I had to deal with it. And it was fresh. It was fresh. Those were fresh feelings. Hey, and I had to deal with those feelings right then and right there. Did it mess up some things while I was dealing with? Yes. It affected our marriage. Yes. It affected our family. It affected a lot of things. It affected and infected my family because I didn't deal with it as a child or I didn't deal with it as a teenager.
Right. Because the thing about it, sometimes you don't know how.
Right.
We have been taught to cover. We've been taught to hide. We've been taught, you know what I'm saying, what goes on in this house does what? Stay in this house. But what went on in that house is killing you. And you got to tell you, this is going to go right into the story. What goes on in this house stays in this house. And we done heard that so many times. You don't talk around adults. If it didn't kill you, just shut up. Now you got to learn how to open your mouth and begin to tell your story, because there's freedom in telling your story, not just for the person you're telling it to, but it's also freedom inside of you.
That's I saw Dr. Rhonda put a comment up. She said you got to get delivered first to tell your story. And you know what? You're right. You got to. There's some deliverance that come before you get past that
that threshold, whatever you want to call it, that
whatever
roadblock,
it is,
that pain, that hurt.
But and that's what we're saying. In order for me, fix it for me. In order for me to get past to tell my story, I had to be delivered first.
That's good.
I had to get some healing first, because remember I said I didn't deal with it as a child, but when I started facing it,
that's good.
When it resurfaced, there was some deliverance that I had to go. Yeah, because it's coming back.
It's gonna come back, because you got to realize God. I'm gonna say this: it wasn't His divine will, but He allowed you to go through it. And when you went through it, if it didn't kill you, God says, "I'm gonna take it and allow you to use it later." But in order for you to use it later,
got to be delivered.
You got to deal with it.
Otherwise, you bleed all over everybody.
Come on to me. Let's get into this.
We don't want to.
I feel this thing this morning. I didn't see it, but I see it now. You don't know my story. I don't know who that was for today, who that was for today, but you got to let all I went through, whether good or bad. I done had some good days. I done had some lonely days. I done had some hills to climb. But all of my good days, all my bad days, all my good days, I wear my bad days and I won't complain. And you got to take all you went through, I don't care how bad it was. I don't care how hurtful it was. God says I can take it and use it for your good, because all things work together for the good of them that love God and them that are called according to his purpose. And the last I checked, when you looked in the mirror this morning, when you got up this morning, you have purpose. You were called for God's purpose. Do not allow somebody to belittle, to downgrade your story. It was significant, and God is giving you out of 66. Was it
67 books?
67 book. Come on, Tamicka, let's get into this.
Whatever book they say. But anyway, so we're coming from Acts chapter 7. The whole chapter 7. I mean, there's so much in that chapter. I went to bed with it, listening to it so that I can get it in my mind. And it was so much. And I was like, James, I can do this and I can say this and I can say this. And James was like, I'm just going to bring you back in place, put you back, because we don't want you saying all of that. But anyway, I'm starting with verse 37, but I'm going to skip around, kind of go backwards a little bit. And verse 37 says, this is the same Moses who said to our ancestors, the Lord God will raise up one from among you who will be a prophet to you like I have been. Listen to everything he will say. So it was spoken long time ago that Moses was coming. Before even Moses even knew that he was coming. It was spoken long time ago, back with Abraham and Jacob. This story been going on for a long time. Somebody's coming. Somebody's coming. People wasn't even oppressed yet. But somebody's coming. They're going to get oppressed, and then I'm going to send a deliverer. Right? Right? So let me go to verse 23. We talking about Acts chapter 7. And in verse 23 it says, when Moses turned 40, his heart was stirred for his people, the Israelites. One day he saw one of our people being violently mistreated. So he came to his rescue. And with his own hands, Moses murdered and abused the Egyptian. Moses hoped that when the people, let me read that again. It says, Moses hoped that when the people realized how he had rescued one of their own, they would recognize him as the deliverer. It's the same one that was spoken about, right? So Moses knew who he was. Moses knew who he was. Right? Because he said Moses, it says Moses hoped that when the people realized how he had rescued one of their own, they would recognize him as the deliverer, the one who was spoken of. How wrong was he? The next day he came upon two of our people engaged in a fist fight, and he tried to break it up by saying, men, you are brothers. Why would you want to hurt each other? But the perpetrator pushed Moses aside and said, who do you think you are? Who appointed you to be our ruler and judge? Are you going to kill me like you did the Egyptians yesterday? Okay, so you got somebody who was raised to know who they are.
Right.
Moses knew who he was. Right. Because he said he hoped that they would recognize him as the deliverer. But then you get down to verse 27, it says, the perpetrator asked him, who do you think you are? Who appointed you to be our ruler and judge? Are you going to kill me like you did the other ones? So you got somebody who knows who they are, but being questioned who they are. Next. But being questioned who they are next. James, go ahead and take over.
It's got to be trying to teach too, because Connor's at home. But here we have Moses. You have Moses, like I say, and he knew he was and thought he was doing something right. And now all of a sudden he's being questioned by his people, and then he starts to question himself. So when you look at this, how many times have you been in a situation where you knew God has spoken something over your life and you were ready to deal with it, you're ready to move forward, you're ready to do some stuff, and then all of a sudden somebody in your own house, whether that's your church, whether that's a close person you thought was on your team, all of a sudden they started to question, who do you think you are? We done heard this a lot. Who do you think you are? You know what I'm saying? Wait a minute. Who put you over this?
Questioning who God created you to be.
Right.
And you know, you all confident about it.
Confident. Get ready to walk in it. Get ready to do it. You know you finna do a good job. It's my time now. And then all of a sudden, folks started to come against and started to question. Then make you start questioning, am I the right person? Come on, Tamicka.
That's good. And so, you know, we take Moses' life. We're talking about Moses' life. His whole life was a process.
Good.
I mean, from the beginning to the end, it was a whole process. I mean, what is a process? We talked about this a while ago. Do you have that?
No, ma'am, I don't.
But we talked about a process a while ago, and I don't have the definite definition right now, but I'm going to start right here. It says, Moses, whose name means taken out or drawn forth, is born into an Israelite family from the tribe of Levi. We know what the tribe of Levi was. That was the priesthood. He was born into an Israelite family from the tribe of Levi. Pharaoh, shortly before Moses' birth, decreed the death of all Hebrew male children. So he was destined to be dead. He wasn't even supposed to be here. But guess what? God had a plan for Moses. And this is the start of his process. The day Moses was born was the start of a process. And Pharaoh, it says, unable to conceal her baby for a very long time, Moses' mother carried out a plan to save her child. She put him in a small basket and placed it in the reeds along the river, hoping he would be found and allowed to live. Pharaoh's daughter finds the baby and immediately adopts him. And his sister, Miriam, who serves the princess, suggests and arrange for her mother to nurse the child. Moses' mother to nurse him. She put him in a basket. This is the start of a process. Because the end is he's the deliverer.
That's it. And that's what let me
the plan is he's the deliverer.
Can I give him the definition of process? A process is a series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end.
Right.
A series of steps or actions taken in order to achieve a particular end. And a lot of times we give up during the process because we don't see what's at the end.
Right.
We don't see what's at the end of the road. So we give up on the process. Moses' whole life was a process. And when you look at everything he went through, you know, he had to be hid away. Then he had to be he was supposed to be killed. Then he had to be hid away. Then he was hid away. Then he was found by Pharaoh's found put in Pharaoh's house. Then when he put in Pharaoh's house, then he got to be raised by the same person that was trying to kill him. He got to be raised in the same house that was just trying to kill him. When we look back over, can I deviate for a minute? When we look back over, a lot of us came up in hard times. A lot of us came up in bad times. A lot of us came up in a situation that was designed to kill us. Let me say it again. You was raised in a situation that was designed to kill you. When we look at it, a lot of us came up, our mothers and our fathers were slaves. I mean, our ancestors were slaves. And we came into a place where we had to deal with Section 8. You know, had to take handouts from the government. Had to do all this stuff. We was put in a system that was designed to kill us. But that same system
was actually designed to push to
help us. But we got caught up in it and thought we was going to die. So when you look at all this, we're going through a process. We're going through a process. When you look back over there, I don't want to get tied up in it. But when you look back, everything you've been through, every bit of piece of desegregation, every separation of low self-esteem, low worth. See, one thing about it is we don't have the same economic value in our community that some have in other communities. All that was designed to keep you under. But you got to realize God had a systematic process put in place for me to rise up out of the mess that I'm in.
A systematic process. I like that. And because it really kind of goes back into what the sentence that I didn't finish. It says, Moses grows up taught and trained in Pharaoh's court. At the same time, he was breastfed and whispered to by his mother.
By his own mama.
By his own mama.
Raised in a spot that he couldn't have gotten what. And this one time you look, I want to say this. A lot of us wouldn't even been afforded the opportunity that we have if it wasn't for some of the stuff they put in place. Some of the stuff the government put in place. We wouldn't even be afforded the opportunities we had. But you got to ask yourself, what did I do with the opportunities that was put in front of me? Yeah, they were set up to kill me. Yeah, they were set up to keep me oppressed. But I can take that same mess. Look here, it's some things that was given to us that ain't given to other folk. But they I don't get into because Section 8 and all that stuff wasn't designed for you to stay on it.
It was designed to help you and get ahead.
Come on to me.
I mean, eventually it was designed to help you to get ahead, because what happened is they made prices lower so that you can learn to save, so that you can move and get, you know, to buy your houses, to do whatever it is. But a lot of times when we, you know, I'm not going to say we, but I'm saying as a people, we saw that it being some kind of way, it got twisted as free money. And
got stuck in our mentality. We're going to get into that.
Yeah,
our mentality has to change. In order for us to achieve what God has for us, your mentality has to change. And the process that we're going
through. Now, let me say this. Now, if you happen to do that, having to be on that, it's not embarrassing. No. It's a process.
It's a process. It's a process. And the thing about it, you have to change your mentality. I won't be stuck in this. It was just a step for me to get to what God has for me. Come on, Sister Tamicka.
I'm going to go back. With this thing I'm going to finish this background up. We said Moses grows up taught and trained in Pharaoh's court, and at the same time, he was breastfed by his own mother. In Acts chapter 7 and verse 22, if I'm not mistaken, it says, so Moses was fully trained in the royal courts and educated in the highest wisdom Egypt had to offer, until he rose as a powerful prince and as an eloquent orator. And if you remember in the story of Moses, once he got out, he started walking into his destiny. It got to the point where he was like, I can't speak. But the Bible says he was eloquent in speech. What happened in the process? What happened in the process that got Moses to the point? What happened to his thought process, his mind? Because he was bold enough to kill somebody at one point, you know, and had hopes that they would see him as the deliverer. But once he was questioned.
That's it. That's good to me. Once he was questioned. Where did you lose your ability to be powerful? Where did you lose your ability to have self-confidence? Where did you lose your self-esteem?
That's good.
Where was it taken from you? Because Moses, you got to think about it, Moses was raised in Pharaoh's house. He was raised with the best of the best. But something happened along the way where he lost his hope. He lost his ability to feel powerful about himself. Am I right? He lost it. Where did you lose it? What happened in your life? Who questioned your destiny?
Woo, that's good.
Who questioned what God had already placed over your life? Because you got to go back. It was some stuff that was placed in you as a little girl, stuff that was placed in you as a young man, stuff that was placed in you as you was growing up. You had dreams and you had visions and you had things that you knew you was going to do, and you had all the confidence in the world. But one incident in your life sometimes can snatch your dreams. I hear you, God. Have your dreams become your nightmare?
Ooh.
Have your dreams, you scared to go to sleep at night because you're not dreaming anymore, because you're not focusing on the promises. You're focusing on the pain of your past. And if you're focusing on the pain of your past, it becomes a nightmare. So I'm afraid to go to sleep. I'm afraid to rest. And I'm so busy doing everything else because I'm afraid to relive some of the stuff that stole my hope, that stole my dreams, that stole my passion to do what God has called me to do. Have your dreams become a nightmare.
That's good, James.
Come on, Tamicka.
So let's talk about the process. Whew. Now, as you can see, Moses' process wasn't all that, it wasn't all that good. Moses, some kind of way, got depressed. I'm saying depressed. I don't know if it was depression, but it was another whole 40 years before Moses even delivered. He went and got married. Remember Jethro was his father-in-law. Can't think of his wife's name right now. Somebody. But anyway, it was a whole process. So let's talk about this process. It says the process reveals who you are. Everything that you're going through, everything that you have faced, everything that you endure, it is part of the process. The process forces us to dig deep. It forces us to pull something out of ourselves that would otherwise remain dormant. In this digging where we find our inner champion, we find that man or that woman willing to push through life and persevere through setbacks. There's some setbacks in the process. There's some discouragement in the process. There's some heartaches in the process. There's some embarrassing moments in the process. It's a lot of things that happen in the process.
That's good.
You need something?
All I was going to say, and when you're going through this process, God has to take us through a process of being unstuck. Mm-hmm. He has to take us through a process of being unstuck from what's been holding us captive for so many years. If you can't get through this part, you cannot stand on God's promises and move to the next level or even turn the page in your life. We're talking about a story. And if you're stuck in a certain part of your life, you cannot turn the page to move forward to the next part of your life. So God has to take us through a process of being unstuck.
I love that.
Come on, Tamicka.
I love that. I was thinking, I love that. Let me go to this next one. It says the process refines us.
That's good right there. We're going to get it now.
The process refines us. It says gold in its natural form typically contains many impurities. It's not until gold is placed under extreme heat that the impurities can be removed. And a desirable shape and quality comes forth. So embrace the refining. After all, it's a testament of your worth. Go ahead.
That's good. You said gold, the process of refining us. Gold is a natural, is what is in its natural form. Typically, when it's in its natural form, typically does what? Contains what? Impurities. It's some stuff in us that God needs to get out of us. And through the process, he refines us. Right. He takes us through the fire. He takes us through the furnace. He takes us through different trials. He takes us through different heartaches, through different pains. So we are built already to handle the pressures of life. But God allows us to go through this so we can see what's in us. The refining process shows you what's in you. And sometimes if you get out the oven too quick, you abort this process and you never become what God really created you to be. You got to stay in the fire, let him burn out all that mess that's in you. Because man born of a woman is a few days full of trouble. And I like it when it says, when God calls us to another level, sometimes we question, do I have what it takes? Am I qualified? Is this what he wants me to do? If we're not careful, then you say to yourself, I can't handle this. I don't ultimately want to do this. And if you do this, you reject the call to move forward to the next level. You reject God's call and to move forward on the next level. Pastor wrote a book about murmuring and complaining. See, murmuring and complaining keeps us from entering to what God has already promised us. When you start to murmur and complain, when you start to question God in so many areas, you get stuck there, you abort the mission that God has placed on your life. Go through the fire. Look, you've already been through enough hell. You might as well go ahead and finish the process. You'd have been through the divorce. You'd have been through the molestation. You'd have been through the hurt. You'd have been to the place where you lost everything. You've been to the point where you want to give up on your marriage and almost give up on you. You'd have been through enough already. Finish the process. Let him keep on until he gets you where he needs you to be. I feel something helping me right now, Tamicka. The process. And sometimes we get to a place and we want to abort the process because we don't want to go through the refining. See, it gets hot in the oven. It gets hot in there, don't you, Tamicka?
I was thinking, this happened to me last year. So I feel like I was being led by God, not trying to be super spiritual or anything, but I felt like I was being led by God, and I was praying. And in my prayer and in my devotion time, I was writing down what I felt like God was leading me to. And I don't think James even know this. I know he don't know because I didn't tell anybody. I was too embarrassed to tell someone. But I wrote it down. I wrote down everything God was telling me.
Right.
And in that story, I'm saying in this story, God showed me some things. And he told me to write them down.
Okay.
So when I wrote them down, it was all good, and I was excited about it. And I felt like I was just, I'm like, okay, God, you finally finna take me somewhere. You finally finna show me where I need to be going. And I'm all happy about it. And then all hell broke loose. So I went back to that and I looked, I'm like, Lord, if this what it takes, and I told James this, I said, if this is what I have to endure, if this what it takes, I don't want it.
Don't want it.
I don't want it.
Woo.
I didn't want to have to go through all of that. So what I did, I tried to erase everything that I wrote. So I took that devotion, that the things that I feel like God told me, and I tore it up. I tore it up, and did it stop the process? No, ma'am.
Don't stop.
No, sir. It did not stop the process. It intensified. It got worse. And it got worse. And it got worse. And I was like, okay, God, I don't even know if I could take any more. Y'all don't know my story.
You said you don't know my story. You don't know it. Come on, Tamicka.
This has been one. This has been. It has been. Let me say that. I can't say the word that I want to say, but it has been one trying time.
But it's a refining time.
And had I not gone through any of those things, I wouldn't be sitting here today. No. It got to the point where I was like, you know what? I went through it. God was with me. I woke up the next day, and I woke up the next day, and I woke up the next day. Why not? Why not find that thing? Why not move towards that thing God has planned for me before the foundation of the world? It's going to take some I'm going to go through some trials and some tribulations. I'm going to go through some troubling times. I'm going to tread on some grounds that's not flat.
I want to go back to what you said. You said, Lord, if it takes all of this, if this is what it takes to get to what you have shown me, I don't want it. I don't want it, because sometimes in the midst of the process, what you see doesn't add up to what you're going through.
Right.
And if you ain't been there, keep living. And what she said was so powerful is that she tore up what she wrote down, but it didn't stop the process. When God has his hands on your life, the Bible says the steps of a good man are ordered by God. So there's certain things you're going to have to endure simply because the mandate has been placed on your life. You can run from it. You can hide from it. All you're going to do is delay the outcome. And you're going to put yourself in a position where you're fighting against God, not wrestling with God. So you got to, and all of us have been there. Let me tell you something. I have went and said, and I'm not going to get too detailed. I said, if this is what it's going to take, I don't want it. I can't operate like this. I can't live like this. I don't want it. My kids are going through too much hell. I'm struggling in my finance. I'm struggling in my marriage. I'm struggling in me. The fight I'm having inside of me ain't worth me going through all this. Let me go sit over here somewhere and just enjoy life. But God said, that ain't the plans I had for you. And you got to realize no matter what it feels like in the process of you going through what you're going through, God is working something greater than you will ever see in your life. And the pain sometimes makes you want to quit. The weight sometimes make you want to. But when you see Jesus on his way to to Calvary's hill, he was carrying a cross, but he had to get the cross to the top. And all of a sudden, he got to the point where he got weak, but then some man, a black man, they said, came along to help him carry the cross. I hear you, God, you're taking me somewhere. So in the process, you going through all the hell you're going, God has a ram in the bush to help you carry what you're going through. You ain't got to carry it alone, but you got to continue to walk it out, continue to trust God, to continue to go through the process, because when you come out, you're going to come out as pure gold, not just gold. You already got what it takes on the inside, but every once in a while, God allows certain struggles, certain tests, certain trials to come in your life to stir up the gift. See, sometimes when you put you put water in a pot on the stove, it's just sitting there, but put a little heat on it. What it starts to do, it starts to boil. It starts to stir up. It starts to mix a little bit. You got to tell yourself, if you got to put me in the fire, if you got to take me through the flood, if you got to take me through whatever you got to take me through, Lord, I cannot stop where I am because I still got to go through whatever you. Lord, help me this morning because I didn't want to go here, but we're going to have to, I see it. He says in the Bible right here, he says, but we have this treasure in what? In earthen vessels. That the excellency is of God and not ourselves. But I like the way it says it right here in the Passion. It says, we are like common clay jars that carry the glorious treasure within us, so that the extraordinary overflow of power will be seen as God, not ours. Though we experience every kind of pressure, we're not crushed. At times, we don't even know what to do, but quitting is not an option.
Not an option.
We are persecuted by others, but God has not forsaken us. We are knocked down, but not knocked out. I don't care what you're going through. God says, I have placed this treasure in you. I have placed this treasure, and the only way this treasure can be revealed if it goes through the fire.
I was thinking about the story that we're reading. Moses ran and hid for how long?
40 years.
He ran and hid for 40
How long
years.
you been hiding? Ooh, come on to me. Come on.
I was just,
Anyway, for 40 years. See, the process does what? It keeps you humble. It keeps you from getting a big head. It keeps you from going out think you can do it all by yourself. We have this treasure in earthen vessels. We just like that pot of clay that's molded in the hands of the master. We're going to make some mistakes. We're going to get marred. We're going to go through some pain. We're going to get cracked. But he says, I can make you again another. You're still in my hands. Don't get out of his hands. Can't no man pluck you out. Only way you can get out is you jump.
Right.
Come on, Tamicka.
He said the process keeps us humble. And that was actually the next part. It says the process, however, keeps us humble. It keeps us connected to the struggle, the discipline, the faith, the resilience, refining, and testing that it took to get us from where we were to where we're ending up, to where we're going.
Right.
It keeps us humble.
Keeps us humble. The process.
The process. It's the process.
The process can be painful. The process can be discouraging. The process, but the blessing of the process.
Right.
Look, you can't make that cake without taking that cake through a process. You got to mix all this stuff in and you got to beat it. Paul says, I beat my what? Body daily. That I won't succumb to the mess that I'm in. You got to learn how to deal with what you're dealing with so you can come out with God. You're going to go through it anyway.
You're going through it anyway. Trust me. I know. Just because I tear it up, it didn't stop it. It didn't stop the hell. It didn't stop the pain. It didn't stop.
Didn't stop. You're gonna lose loved ones. You're gonna have some hurts. You're gonna make some mistakes. But let me tell you this: your mistakes are not final. Your mistakes don't always have to be fatal. But if you will allow God, He will use your mistakes as failures and fuel for the future. I'm gonna say it here: use your mistakes or failures as fuel for your future. In fact, your future is wrapped up in how you respond to your mistakes and failures.
That's good.
How you gonna respond to it? Because Moses made some mistakes. Moses killed somebody. Moses did some other stuff, but how did he respond? Yeah, he went into hiding. Yeah, he hid for 40 years. But it came a time when it came back around, God still had a plan on his life. It did not negate the plan God had. Your mistakes, Your failures, your insecurities does not negate the plan that God has on your life. You got to get up and do something with it. How are you going to respond now that you've heard God's word, now that you're in a different place in your life, since you realize your story has to be told some kind of way?
I love that. That's good. It kind of leads us to this right here. It says, get in place. That's how you're going to respond. You're going to get in place to be repositioned. You're going to transition. It says we struggle with many things and we are weighed down by many trials in life. If you would just focus on God, you will understand that these things are small and minor compared to Him.
Right.
They are also stepping stones to becoming whatever it is that God has for you. They're stepping stones. Every trial, every tribulation that you're going through, they're stepping stones. It says while facing these trials and struggles, it's important to be still. It's important to, it's imperative to quiet your mind.
And it's the hardest thing to do.
And I think we've said this before, but you know, we have to repeat it.
When all hell breaking loose, when everything is going crazy,
right?
When you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, how do I be still and not do something? How do I quiet all the stuff around me? The Bible tells us in the 23rd Psalms, He leaded me beside the still waters. Mm-hmm. He said he restores my soul.
I mean, if He's restoring,
making me to let it lie
but if He's restoring,
something got lost.
Something got lost.
He's making me to lie down in green pastures.
That's why you got to be still.
You got to be still. You got to be still. And all the hell you're going through, quiet yourself for a minute so God can speak to you and reassure you that He that begun a good work in you shall perform that which He has started. Mm-hmm. It ain't about you anyway. It's about what God has placed in you to do. And let me tell you something. What He placed in you to do is more important. It's more important than what you're going through.
Right.
Come on, Tamicka.
It says our mind tends to fill with noise. Pastor, first of all, you talk about the distractions. That noise is the distractions that's coming. It's everything that you're going through. It says our mind tends to fill with noise from those trials. It's hard to hear God and the directions He's given us. Every once in a while, you need to quiet yourself and allow Him to calm your fears and worries. Allow God to speak to you. Allow God to guide you to the place He has planned for you. The Bible, Jeremiah 29:11 says, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for evil, to give you a future and hope. He has plans for you, just like Moses. There was a decree for Moses to be dead.
Everything what the enemy meant for evil, everything the devil has tried to do to destroy you, and you still here, you better give God some glory. You felt like quitting. You felt like quitting this year, and we just 2 months into this year. You felt like throwing in the tile. You felt like all your life was not worth it. But God says, I created you in my image and in my likeness, and I've given you power and dominion over all things, and it's left up to you to exercise your power. Mm-hmm. But if you don't know whose you are, you'll never understand who you are.
Right.
And you'll never understand the process that God is taking you to become who you are. Right.
That's good. I love that. I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm sorry. And it says, start to renew your mind. If you're going through a lot of stuff, and in that process of being quiet, of being still, there's, in this refining time, you got to be quiet. You got to be still. You got to quiet yourself and allow God to restore you. Dr. Rhonda said, you got to get some deliverance. Allow God to heal you.
That's good.
And in that, that's when your test becomes your testimony. That's when your mess becomes your message.
That's good to me.
Because in that time, there's a refining time. There's a restoring time. Your test, which is your problem. You think of it as a timeline. You got test right here, dealing with the test, quieting yourself, and then testimony because you came through. Right. You got mess. Deal with the mess, quiet yourself in the mess, and then you got your message. You go ahead, you say.
I'm thinking about sitting in the sun. You sit in the sun because it is hot in the sun. But it pushes out the impurities and it cleanses you. And sometimes you got to be, and the thing about it, why would I want to go sit in a hot place? Because it's doing something for me. It's doing something to me. It's refining me. And let me tell you something. Refining ain't always good, but look here, when I come out of that thing, when I come out of what I'm going through, when I come out, I'm gonna have a different smile. I'm gonna have a different walk. I'm gonna be in a different shine. I'm be in a different place in my book, in my story. Look at it, because my story got a good ending. Because in the end, I win. Moses' story didn't have a good ending. And I don't want to be like Moses. I don't want to go through all the hell I went through and get to a place where I let some folk frustrate me, the folk that I'm supposed to be delivering, keep me from walking into my blessing. So you have to be real careful with that. You know what I'm saying? And so when you look at this, that refining process, and it's in that refine that you renew your mind. It's in during this time that you change the way you think about it, the way you look at it. I'm not looking at the hell I'm going through as something that's killing me. It's making me better. It's making me sharper. It's making me wiser. It's causing all the hell I went through in my life. Yeah, the devil, you should have got me when you had me. But God said, turn the page. I'm still right. I am the author and the finisher of your faith. I am Alpha and Omega. I'm the beginning and the end. And if you just trust me and allow me to keep writing your story, and don't you give up in the process, I got something in store for you, but you got to be willing to turn the page. And sometimes the hardest thing is getting stuck on one. If you're reading a good book, sometimes if you're not careful, you get stuck on one part of it. Right. But it's so good if you just continue to turn the page. And you got to tell somebody, I'm not going to get stuck in this part of my life. I ain't got 40 years to be wasting. I ain't got time to be wasting. I got work to do. And I must do the work of him that called me while it's day, because night coming when no man can work. So right through here, let me look at everything I've been through. See, the thing about it, it was what I got on Queen Sugar, what you call it name? They were doing a marathon. I kept looking. I never looked at it. I'm just looking at it. You got to realize you got to get in a place where you get on a marathon where you just start watching your life. Start looking back over your life. Start watching it. Say, let me go back and look at reruns for a minute. Let me look at reruns. I'm looking at reruns of my life. I'm looking at the process that God has taken me through. I was born in sin, shaping in iniquity, but look at me now. He called me the righteousness of God. You got to start doing some reruns on your life. Yeah, I went through the divorce. Yeah, I let that person, that sucker, that person messed my life up for a period of time, but look at me now. I got a new wig on. I got a new pair of shoes. I done went and bought me a new suit. I done dressed myself up because I realized God ain't finished with me yet. Yeah, I was a teenage mother, a teenage son. I made some mistakes in my life. And God says your mistakes were not fatal. Let me keep writing your story. Let me keep taking you to the next page. Turn the page in your life. It's all right to do a marathon, what you call it, rewind. Start rewind, looking over some stuff, but don't get stuck there. Because I know that God knows the end. I got to hurry up and get to the end, but I got to go through the process. And when you look back over your life, everything you went through, and you're still here. Everything you went through, and you're still here.
Right.
God is still working on you. God is still writing out some stuff. God is still getting you prepared for what he's already put in store for you in your life. Are you willing to receive it? How bad? I said this other day, how bad do you want it? Come on, Tamicka. I got something I want to say.
That's go ahead and say it. Go ahead and close it out.
I'm trying to get to it. So keep going.
Got it? Okay. But I agree totally with what he said. Everything that you've gone through is a stepping stone. It's here to get you closer to whatever it is that God is going to do. And we're here to motivate you on this morning. Motivation. This is Motivation on Monday. And we're saying, hey, we know it's hard. We know that you are going through a lot. We understand. We've been there. We're going through it ourselves, but it's one step closer to what God has for you. One step closer. Don't give up.
Okay, right. Through the process, God is preparing you for what God is preparing you for what he has already prepared for you.
That's good.
Through the process, God is preparing you for what he has already prepared for you. Don't give up on the process. Let him refine you. And take time today. Start doing a rewind on your life and look at what God has brought you through. And you might be in something right now, but you can look back over your life and say, if he brought me through this, if he brought me through that, he'll get me through this.
Right.
I might be in a low. I might even be in a high. I might be in a place that I don't even know what to do. But trust God through the process.
Trust God
you
through the process.
don't know my story. Matter of fact, I don't even know all of it. But what I do know, he didn't bring me this for the lead.
And I win in the end.
Come on, Sister Tamicka.
That's it. I'm good.
Going through the process. Your life is not a failure. Your life was not a mistake.
And the things that you're going through are not
fatal.
They're not here to block you from getting there. They're here to help you get there. They're here to refine you and take you one step further.
You got to change your mindset.
Change your mindset.
You got to change the way you look at it. Don't murmur and complain about it. Praise and dance about it. Because in the end, you win. We love you.
Right.
Love,
peace, and happiness. Y'all have a good day. God bless you.